Well, it has sure been an interesting week in the Nigerian polity, from the saga playing out between the Senate President and the IG of the police to the intrigues of the Ekiti and Osun governorship elections. But President Muhammadu Buhari's declaration of June the 12th as Nigeria's Democracy Day has to take the cake. Good afternoon and welcome to Standpoint. I am Veronica Danik-Boy. We will kick off the show with the Osun governorship election slated for September the 22nd. Who will succeed Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola? Will it be my guest, Osun State governorship aspirant on the platform of the APC, Dr. Abiodun Ishola Sakalayonu? Later, we will beam our satellite on the Senate police drama. Is the independence of the legislative arm of government being threatened by the executive? Political analyst Biodun Shomi will be answering that question and many more, but all that will be after this break. Stay with us. Well, though the atmosphere in the state of Osun appears to be calm right now, beneath the tranquility lies the gathering storm of a fierce political battle that will ultimately determine the political party and individual that would succeed the outgoing governor of the state, Rauf Aregbesola. Nigeria's two dominant political parties, that's the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, and other relevant stakeholders have begun to sharpen their arsenals and are deploying measures to have an edge in the governorship poll. Political watchers have said that the Ekiti and Osun elections will serve as a litmus test for the 2019 general election. Why so? I'll ask my guest. Welcome once again. Now, why do people think that the elections in the state of Osun and that of Ekiti are critical and are going to serve as a litmus test for the coming elections?
Yes, I think that's naturally so. Those two states will have their elections and they will be precursors to what will happen in 2019, especially in the southwest part of Nigeria.
You are an aspirant for the Osun state, and like we said, it is there's some form of tranquility in the state, but it's looking like a fierce battle. About 15 candidates, which we talked about, and you said there are more than 15 candidates gone in for one seat. How challenging has it been for you as an aspirant?
Yes, let me say, first of all, it's not unusual that you have 26 aspirants. As far as my party is concerned, as the APC, I don't think it's unusual for, especially at this time. I believe between now and the primary, which is slated for 7th of July, you could have a situation, maybe one or two or some, will probably review or reappraise their position, and they may decide that perhaps things that kind of event, it could happen. I can see the numbers actually going down.
Do you see yourself as being one of those?
No, I don't see myself.
Why is that? You're so confident.
Yes, I believe, I pray, I'm working to go all the way. All the way.
Yeah, you said something about the type of leader the Osun state needs, or the state of Osun needs. You said someone who can build on the legacy of the current administration and improve the areas yet to be fully actualized. Is that what you see yourself doing, or why? How did you come to this conclusion that that is what the state of Osun needs?
Thank you. You see, if you look at the state since its creation in 1991 and up to now, the truth of the matter is, even for political opponents, you will agree that this is a government. The government of Rauf is a government that's really done tremendously well. And it's important that we keep with that tempo. We do not want a situation where we've taken some good steps forward progressively, and then somebody comes and then takes us back three of more steps backwards. It's important that the foundation that has already been laid visible, a lot of it visible, people can see. And those abstract ones, even things that you cannot readily see in terms of physically, like the areas of education, some of these are not necessarily visible. I'm not talking of structures in terms of school buildings that have been built, but things like teachers, training, and technology, all these that may not be readily visible, all these are there. And it's important to be able to, to keep on with a good.
Does that mean that you wouldn't come up with your own legacy or something you want to do for the state?
Everybody has their own legacy, but for us, the APC, part of the APC program is to really have a blueprint. There is a blueprint. It is not that even the current governor, it's not that he's doing things according to his own whims and caprices. The party has a solid blueprint. I have my blueprint as well. I have my manifesto, but the important thing is to make sure that there is no contradiction. It is all in alignment with that of the party. There is a party program. Each individual will naturally bring his own individuality and his own character, to bear. But it's not going to be such a massive deviation from the beautiful program that is already on ground by the party.
You also seem to be concerned about the character of the person who will eventually take the seat, because you talked about the person has to be honest.
Yes.
Why are you worried in terms of...
You have to be honest with the people. Your lifestyle matters. Your antecedents matter. Where are you coming from? What have you achieved? What are you doing? What sort of lifestyle are you living? The people must come to be able to have the kind of trust in you that you'll be able to motivate them. They must see that whatever sacrifices you're asking them to make, you have either made it or you are ready to make the same. That is where the issue of honesty comes in.
And then your campaign mantra, you said it was wealth creation. Why are you focusing on that?
You see, because let the truth be told, theoretically, virtually all parties, all individuals who have aspiration, you will see common goals, common objectives, common programs. Nobody is going to come and tell you that, oh, I'm not going to do good things. In all the major areas that matter, education, health sector, employment, and all this. I take that to be. But the real challenge is, how do we finance all this? How are we going to raise? Because the statutory allocation is not enough and can never be enough. We can never get enough. So unless we do programs that would really geometrically increase and enhance the income earning capacity of the people in such a way that they're able to contribute massively for us to be able to grow the IGR of the state. Then we are
Give
not
us
going
an
to get
insight
anywhere.
into how you intend to do that.
Thank you. The number one thing is, some of the programs that have already been achieved. You are opening up the rural areas with good roads. You are making sure that the health facilities, resources that are available, will look after the people's health. Education is foundational. It's key, it's fundamental. By the time you are beginning to see the results of all this, then naturally, the people are not idiots. You do not need too much of government. What you need to do is to put in place a conducive atmosphere where their natural talents and abilities will come to the forefront. You have to encourage people, especially the youth. They are key to this. Whatever we want to do, without them, we cannot succeed. If you take the issue of agriculture, for instance, everybody is a mantra that everybody is saying, agriculture, agriculture. But without involving the youth population, it won't work.
How do you intend to
Thank you
involve
very
them?
much. You see, currently what do we have? With a lot of people who are in that sector, farming is seen as a second career, maybe after retirement. Some people are, say after they've retired from their major life, then they go into it. We need to have a situation where, right from the beginning, a lot of young people will go into agriculture as their life career from the beginning. And one of the programs I have in mind is to encourage the youth to either stay in the villages, in rural areas where they can really go into massive agriculture, And to be able to achieve that, you have to give them incentives. If you look at today, the average young person, maybe with not so much of formal education, prefers to go to the major cities, engages in, say, something like Okada, is able to fend for himself on a daily basis. Maybe he makes about 2,000 naira a day, maximum 50 to 60,000 in a month. He's able to feed himself, maybe get some shelter and all that. If you tell him, now come into agriculture, the first challenge you are going to have is, what is he going to be doing between, let's say, let me use maize, for instance. From planting to harvest, you have a minimum period of, say, 3 to 4 months. What is he, how is he going to survive between planting and harvest? That is where the incentive comes in. So you must come up with a program whereby maybe half of what he gets from doing the less productive Okada riding. I'm not saying Okada riding is not productive, but there are too many of them in there. So you want to encourage a significant proportion of them to come back to this more productive sector, which is farming. So you come up with a program and it's like, okay, for the 3 to 4 months where you harvest, I'll guarantee you an income, maybe half of what is already, because even the money he's making, it has to be net. I mean, if he makes 60,000 gross, by the time he spends, and the energy that he puts into it, it will be less. So maybe you guarantee him that on the average, you have 30,000 naira, on the average per month until you get to harvest time. By the time he gets to harvest time, he begins to see for himself the productive nature of what he's now engaged in, and how better off he is, and how better off the state is going to be. Then it's much, a lot easier to make him, to keep him there, rather than him. Because if in those 3, 4 months, if he fails, or if you fail, and he doesn't see that he's better off on a long-term basis, he will naturally go back to what he was doing before.
Another challenge which some persons have spoken about when it comes to agriculture is financing,
yes,
as well as storage, food security, having food banks and structures and all of that to ensure that whatever is being harvested, storage and all of that, even over a long period of time. Do you have plans for all of that? And
yes.
You could share with us.
Thank you very much. The first thing is, some of our ways we have to, I won't call it go back, I say advance to the basics. We've put away a lot of the way we do things. We've gone for things like maybe the Western ideas, imported ideas. Not that it's not the best, they're the best, but now we're at a situation where we are right there at the bottom. We need first and foremost to develop our own, to grow our own, the way we used to do things, modify them. This is where the intellectuals, those who are in the universities, those who are in the colleges, we have to bring their own ideas into how we modify some of the traditional ways of doing things, and then we'll build up from there. If we are going to say, let us in one day bring in all the modern, like the silos and all that, this may prove to be very expensive for us, much more. Without some help coming from, maybe from outside, we will not be able to do this. We have to do the way I see in history, the way China did some decades back. You discover that at a point in time, China practically locked itself in. That is, over a period of about 30 years, they locked themselves in. They were producing and consuming their own. They were not going for it. It was after that China opened up to the world. We need to do something like that. It will be very tough because, unlike China, we have been used to the products coming from the Western world. We have been used to it. We have had it the easy way because of money. We've had a lot of free money in the past, but it's no longer the case. So we will need to produce and use our own. The World Trade, WTO, these are things that we need to review and look at and really realize that some of these things cannot be the best for us.
And the state of Osun, although it says that it is not owing backlog of salaries, but according to reports that the state is owing, how do you intend to clear the backlog and ensure that that salaries being owed are settled and the state is not in debt?
This is an issue I've had to deal with on several occasions, and I've been consistent in my response. One, what brought about that difficult about salary arrears. It was not peculiar to Osun. It was a national thing. Even the federal government at a point was owing salaries. A lot of people might not realize that. I know that even from the constituency, the legal constituency where I come from, there's a point where the federal government was owing backlog salaries. Now, what we now have, I say is only because the price of the major product, which is crude oil, the price went down as low as like maybe 20 or 20 something dollars. Now we've had a massive improvement in that. Of course, we've had to deal with all the bad conduct, misconduct of excesses of the previous administration, that really impacted heavily, negatively on the economy. Where we are now is things have improved. Yes, there have been some areas. Osun came up with a modulated salary formula, which was brilliant in the sense that the government had the option of either engaging in massive retrenchment or coming up with a kind of formula that it did, which is modulated. That is, you cut down on a percentage basis. Yes. The governor has spoken severally on this. And he's honest. I believe him. And I'm sure a lot of citizens of Osun State, vast majority of citizens believe him. He has said that before he leaves office, even in the 6 months, about 6 months that is left, he will do a lot. One, to make sure that there is consistency now in paying full salary between now and when he leaves office. And regarding whatever arrears that have built up, it's a fact because we all know what cost it.
Now, what happens if he is unable to meet that promise?
Of course.
What do you intend
Government
to do?
is a continuum. The next administration, which I pray, and I hope that's how will be the governor, will pay it. It's you cannot. It's like I don't want to use a Yoruba expression.
You can go ahead, just make sure that you
As Yoruba
explain.
Say, yes, I will explain. You cannot just sweep it under the carpet. It is an arrear. It has to be paid at a point in time. And you can see what Akeredolu did in Ondo State. He came in, he had that challenge, and since he came in, he's been dealing with it on a bit by bit basis. It will be paid. I can assure whatever is left would be paid.
Remember that.
And it will not happen. What is important is that it will not happen again.
Remember, people will hold you to your words.
Yes. I'm on open here.
All right. I just wanted to remind you that people will hold your words.
And as I said, it will not happen again. And the formula for ensuring that it doesn't happen again is a simple one. I will go the way traditionally our mothers, the market women, the way they deal with these things. From the beginning of the month, it's something I've done myself in my practice, in my business. At the beginning of the month, I set aside the first thing I do is to set aside the salary of my staff, my workers. So the end of the month comes, I'm not running around looking to pay salary. The government has to do that. As time goes on, as the economy improves, you begin to set aside maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. You may get to a point that you are sure that
will the internal revenue being generated by the state as it is now be able to help you achieve the setting aside of the salaries, not waiting for what comes in?
It will go up. I will tell you why it's going to go up. A lot of the programs that's already been done by this government, when they come to fruition, the IGR will naturally, automatically increase. Then two, we are bringing more and more people into that revenue earning base. I don't want to say tax base. Everybody at the end of the day will have to pay something, no matter how small. The vulcanizer, the market woman, the one who says boli, at the end of the day must pay something. And how do I intend to go about that? I intend to walk through the association. It's not going to be a direct government thing. You're not going to be chasing them on the streets. You walk through the association. All of them, as you see them, they all have associations. So you call the association, they partner with the government. They must develop a database. You cannot practice as a vulcanizer without being on the database of your association. And the government will, of course, provide the license for everybody, every member of the association. So at the end of the day, you are partnering with the executives of the association, and they will be the ones paying for a meeting to you. So you save money on collection, you save collection costs. It's the only way. Everybody must come in, everybody must come in. They too must have that dignity that they are contributing, and they'll be able to talk.
All right, now let's go back to the contest itself. Now, that some say that, or some believe that the crisis rocking, we know that there are internal wranglings between in the APC, and some have said that there is the possibility that this will affect, this coming elections. Do you see that happening?
One, I won't use the word crisis. There's no crisis in APC.
Internal wranglings, whatever.
Call it, but certainly not crisis. This is not unusual. If you are going to say that APC has crisis, what will you say about the other parties like PDP? I mean, what they have gone through
but
and what they're still going through.
This party intends to retain
yes,
the seat.
that's what I'm
so
saying.
it has to put its house in order. It shouldn't be looking at another person.
I'm saying, no, what I'm saying is the word crisis.
Yes.
We don't have crisis.
Okay.
What we have are normal
misunderstandings.
Challenges, not challenges within a political party. You cannot do away with that. And we are dealing with this. And I can assure you, well before the election, all this will have been dealt with, put aside, and the party will unite. And we are going to say that the party is already being done anyway. The conventions, with exceptional pockets of dissension here and there, largely the conventions that have taken place have been successful. You have one or two areas or some states where naturally you have some dissent, who have come up with maybe parallel conventions. These are not in themselves anything unusual.
All right, now looking back at the events of 2007 and 2010 and how Aregbesola emerged governor, do you think that he will allow a fair contest? And as there are already speculations that his chief of staff, Boyega Oyetola, is his anointed candidate, do you think he will allow?
The governor has not said anything like that. There is a lot of political conjecture, speculation going on. And again, as I said, that is not unusual. I've had people who have said to me that they have called me up and said, oh, we heard that you are the anointed candidate. I claim it, as my Christian counterparts would say. Seriously speaking, the governor or the party has not said anything like that. So that's, as far as that is concerned, people will engage in speculation and conjecture. I have no doubt in my mind that the governor and the party leadership would not do anything that is not fair.
Well, most of the candidates have been hammering on transparency and fairness concerning these elections.
Yes, I say the same too. And we're all on the same page, including the party leader. You see, because
there must be a reason behind that emphasis, them emphasizing on that.
I think it's being said. It will be said. It's being said anyway. It's like you say, oh, let there be peace, let there be stability. It's something that you say every point in time. Whenever there is a festival, people will say, oh, Nigeria, please let there be peace. So I take it that is what is being done. But let me finish on that. The process is going to be open. It's going to be fair. It's going to be transparent. Everybody's going to see, because the consequences of doing otherwise, the party will not want it.
What could be the consequences?
The consequences for any political party that does not engage in open and transparent program is that people get disaffected. And when they do so, they will take the kind of action that will not be in the best interest of that party. And we don't want that. APC will not, in Osun, will not do that.
All right, now another major issue that is being contested, or that is contentious, is the issue of zoning. People have been talking about zoning, that the arguments over the zoning of governorship ticket to the Osun West senatorial district. What is informing this argument?
Well,
and what are your thoughts on it?
Thank you. What is informing it is the fact that if you say on the basis of fairness and justice, it's not a matter of looking at the political history of the state. From its inception, the first governor, may God rest his soul, the late Alhaji Isiaka Adejuyi Adeleke, he was there for 22 months before the Abacha regime, the military regime, through that republic, the abortive Third Republic. Since 1999, when the new political dispensation started, we've had a situation where Osun Central has produced the governor for a total of about 11 and a half years, a little bit short of 12 years. Osun East is where the current governor comes from. By the grace of God, it's going to come November, spend 8 years. So since 1999, Osun West has not had the opportunity of producing the governor. And it's not just a matter of the party members. It is let me put it this way, the sentiments of the people of Osun West themselves that, look, we are a part of this state, as well. And we, like our brothers and sisters from other senatorial districts, we are also as entitled as they are to produce the governor. They are competent people. It's not just a matter of wanting to, just for the bare sake of it. It's a matter of saying whatever qualifications, whatever qualities are being looked for, they are also, you find them also in abundance in aspirants that are coming from the West. That is as far as that is concerned, I believe that the party leadership, the APC is a progressive party. We believe in fairness. They listen, they know what is going on. The sensitivity of the people, themselves. All this will be taken into consideration when eventually the party will make a decision or give some guidance or direction as to the way it's going to go about it. It's a challenge that is there. I believe is going to be resolved. I don't think it's something that would tear the party apart. It is clearly people of Osun West saying, yes, we believe that we need to be dealt with fairly and justly. And I believe the party is looking into it and will listen.
So your final words, because we need to wrap up this segment.
Yes.
Your final words, because
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm telling the people out there, I'm telling the people of Osun, vote for my party first. That's the number one. Aregbesola has done well. And let the succeeding government, let it also be the progressive government of APC. Then I say that I want the people to find me worthy of this challenge. I want them to find me worthy of being able to occupy this position. Right. I'm assuring them that they will be better off. They will do very well. Their aspirations, their dreams, will come to be if they make me the next governor of Osun State.
All right, we can only wish you all the best, Dr. Abiodun Ishola Saka Lionu. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's go on a short break now, and when we return, we will go into our next discuss. The discussion continues when we return. Stay with us. You're still watching Standpoint, and in the studio with me is Abiodun Shoumi. Thank you for joining us for this program.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon.
All right, now the police, in the course of their criminal investigation, have released 2 clips of the robbers indicting Senator Saraki and his political godson, Kwara State Governor Abdul Fattah Ahmed, of complicity in the robbery incident that claimed more than 30 lives, including a pregnant woman and police officers. But many Nigerians did not lose sight of the fact that the accusation is coming on the heels of the fallout between the Senate President and the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, over the latter's refusal to appear before the Red Chamber. Now, is this a case of a political witch hunting, or is there really a case to answer here?
Oh, yes. It's quite a very interesting one because it's revealing quite a lot of things about our criminal justice system in the country. It's also revealing some things about construct psychology, national construct psychology. Because in the first instance, if you are to look at it as a Nigerian living anywhere in the world, is when the number 3 citizens of the country is being accused of armed robbery. In the way and manner the police went about it, which smacks of media trial, before any full investigation, some investigations were carried out, but before it was thoroughly investigated, to me, shows that we care less about what our foreign embassies, were doing abroad to show up our image. By the time you move to the level of your number 3 being involved in armed robbery, we are seriously damaging the image of this country abroad. That is my first opinion on this. On the subject matter itself, why are we engaging in media trial? This is purely a criminal trial. It should just be based on what the law says. The police have the right to carry out investigation. And I must say that we should thank the IG because the speed at which they arrested all the suspects, is commendable. We must commend the IG for that, but that's as far as it goes. That does not mean that the IG now needs to even imperil, the Nigerian police force in this case needs to imperil, the whole case to start with. When you look at a case like this, it is not based on balance or probability. The police needs to go to court and prove beyond reasonable doubt. If you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt, then you must have a close, tight case. What do I mean by this? Yeah. When the public, based on what we have read and viewed on social media, when you begin to portray the attendance of somebody at a wedding, for instance, some of the suspects were said to be at the wedding of Saraki's daughter, and then you're using that as a proof.
But they mentioned his name. So some of the suspects mentioned Saraki's name. That was why they went ahead.
Absolutely. Let me give you a good example. The vice president's daughter got married, to Bola Shagaya. To Bola Shagaya's son. Bola Shagaya is on trial for corruption. Does that make the vice president an accomplice or vicariously liable for the sins committed by Bola Shagaya? Buhari's daughter, Sarah Buhari's wedding to Indomie, to the son of Indomie. So many people were there. If some of them were found to be corrupt in future, would that make Buhari liable for that? If, for instance, I sent somebody...
If they mention his name.
If they did.
Yes.
If they did. For instance, some of the things being mentioned is a vehicle being given as gifts, which we do exchange gifts a lot in the country for different reasons. Now, if I give a ticket to somebody to go to for pilgrimage, maybe in Mecca or Jerusalem, and the person was caught with drugs, would that make me an accomplice to that crime committed? What about the intendment? What about the intention in law? Because you cannot, in reality, prove the actus reus is not enough alone. The mens rea is there. The intention of what you have done is there. That is why it's important not just to focus on the acts. The police need to do a full investigation. Don't forget that 33 people were killed. Lives were lost. 9 police officers were killed. It is in everybody's interest, in a national interest, to ensure that all the perpetrators were brought to book.
So is this being, are you saying that this is being politicized?
I don't even want to look at it as being politicized. I see it as a reckless act on the part of the police to engage in media trial, which again is now drawing the whole thing to all unnecessary, political interpretations of what the police is trying to do. Nobody is disputing the fact that 33 people were killed. This robbery actually happened. For Christ's sake, 33 people were killed, Nigerians, fellow Nigerians like us. Now, the police needs to be more careful, in the way this is investigated. Don't forget, you cannot achieve conviction without proper investigation.
Definitely.
It is only proper investigation and full investigation that leads to diligent prosecution, particularly in criminal justice cases. When you want to process people through the criminal justice on criminal charges, you must bear in mind that you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt. You don't leave gaps. Let me give you another good example. The police said they produced a plate number that a suspect had Saraki's plate number, and all that. We all know how politicians have been doing that, campaigning. You last see somebody, Fashola 2015, this and all that. And they're fond of doing that. Is that sufficient? Is that enough a proof? Abdul Rashid Maina, the pension alleged fraudster, who is still being wanted, for trial, Abdul Rashid Maina had Buhari's logo, on him, on his clothes in the past. Will that make Buhari to be liable, vicariously liable or culpable for crimes committed by Abdul Rashid Maina? This can play very well with the public. Will it stand in court? That is the first issue. We need to be concerned about that argument. We don't have to create a situation where those being alleged to have committed serious crimes against the state are able to get away with it under the guise that the police did not carry out full investigation. Because what you have seen now, I can see already a lot of loopholes here and there.
So how do you see it playing out? Do you think that a lot of people can get away with things in all of this that's happening now with the way the police is handling it?
Oh yes, if once you put in extra judicial factors into it, for instance, political consideration is a good opportunity to hammer our opponent. When you begin to think like that, and then you now engage in media trial, all the lapses will become obvious. For instance, on Friday, NOPRIN, Network on Police Reform in Nigeria, did issue a statement, asking questions about two of the principal alleged ringleaders who were missing from the last parade by the police. One of them, it's the son of Opadokun. The other is Michael Adiku, the chief armorer, fingered by all the suspects. The chief armorer himself was a police corporal who was dismissed in 2012, on alleged assistance to robbery suspects to escape from SARS. He was in Kwara State SARS. Now, he was jailed for 3 years, left the prison in 2015, now being fingered by all the suspects as the chief armorer, but he was no longer being paraded. So, NOPRIN, in his own statement, is concerned about whether this guy has been killed to cover up one thing or the other. It's leading to breeding a lot of other suspicion. Those suspects allege that Michael Adiku gave them the weapons. They did not say Saraki gave them the weapons. So you need Adiku, to actually come out and say, this is where I've been getting the weapons from. Now Adiku is no more in public domain. So what happened to Adiku? So there are so many problems here and there with this case, with the way the police is handling it. This is the real problem. Rather than carry out full investigation, no matter whose source is God, if Saraki is found wanting, he should be tried. But if you don't carry out full investigation and they continue the way they are going, making people to feel that Saraki is being persecuted because of his political stance in the country, that will not ensure or assure justice. This is the major problem with this. The police need to move the whole thing away from media trial, carry out full investigation. If they need to interview Saraki, interview him. If they need a statement from him, which he has obliged them, let them take it. But we should not create a situation where either children of highly placed suspects or poor suspects, are able to walk away due to the incompetence of the Nigerian police force. Already, the background is very clear. The IG has an issue, with the Senate president. Nobody can forget that the Senate did invite the IG refused, and the IG in turn invited Saraki, and then we now have this compromise, Saraki should make a statement. So the whole thing is already being viewed from political prism by so many people. So, and that does not augur well for the police. The police is a state institution. It should insulate itself from politics or from any attempt, to engage in media trial of suspects. So
now that you have seen loopholes, how do you think that the police should go about covering these loopholes to ensure justice, like you rightly mentioned? Because a lot of people are waiting for justice to be done in this case.
In the first instance, the police need to pull back, carry out full investigation, stop the media trial. What is now obvious over the years is that the police have failed to recognize that the court has held that media trial of suspect is wrong. The only people who can pronounce somebody guilty of an offense is a judge. And allow full investigation. If Saraki is involved, he should be interviewed. No matter who is involved, the person should be interviewed. But after full investigation, it is only the prosecution service in the state or at federal level, whichever, the Attorney General, that can order people to be tried. We should follow the process through rather than politicizing the process before getting to the stage of trial. As I'm speaking to you, nobody has been charged to court. But then the whole thing has dominated the media, so many interpretations given to it in a way that some people in some climb will query whether anybody can really have a fair hearing with the way the police have handled the whole thing. So it's quite unfortunate. I think the police needs more training. It's more to do with training. It's more to do with building an institution where nobody needs to look at the body language of politicians before arresting or before prosecuting anybody, so that we can have a more professional police force dedicated to their job without, insulated totally from politics.
Can that really happen? Can we really insulate the police from politics? They are an instrument of the state. So how is that possible?
It is possible. It's been done in other climes. Once you have community policing, once you don't have a centralized police command like we have now, we need to look at those structures which is creating this problem. One of it is centralized command. The IG is sitting in Abuja alone, appointed, historically till now, appointed by the head of the country. Not appointed in a way that can insulate the IG from political pressure. Unfortunately, I do not believe that the president or APC directed the IG to do what he's doing currently. I think it's just a case of the IG, taking what should ordinarily be a normal policing duty, personal, and then bungling, making so many errors in the process. Because when you look at all the lapses currently, let me give you a good example. If I send somebody on a pilgrimage to Mecca, and the person was caught for drug trafficking, because I paid for the ticket, does that make me vicariously liable?
But you be called
these
for questioning.
Are not sufficient.
You be called for questioning because you...
Yes, the intention. My intention now matters. Yeah. What did I intend to do? Did I sponsor the person to go on pilgrimage or sponsor the person, to be a drug courier? So it matters. Judges do take account of two issues. One is the letters of the law and the spirits of the law. That is the intention. And in investigation, you need to look at the acts and also the intention behind it. That is why you can't have a conviction without considering, the mens rea. That's the intention with the act itself. So what the police is doing currently is only looking at the act without looking at the intention. So that is why this issue needs to be taken out of public domain. The police needs to do their job, be a professional criminal law enforcement agency, carry out investigation, interview anybody that they need to interview without going on media. The moment you announce to say, look, we are interviewing these people, some of the suspects and accomplices would leave the country. That's what they would do. You are more or less alarming them. What should have been a discreet investigation, thorough investigation, is now being politicized. And I am not particularly too pleased with the role of the police in this matter.
All right, now the country's #3 citizen is seen by many bigwigs in his political party as a black sheep. Saraki has been in the eye of the storm since his emergence as Senate President, from fraud allegations to forgery allegations and now robbery, murder allegations. The Senate President has been accused of all sorts of crimes. He is the third inner caucus member of the National Assembly to have their names dragged into robbery or violent crimes in recent months, in a curious coincidence involving disloyal members of the ruling APC. Shehu Sani was first in the line of fire, then Dino Melaye, and now Saraki. Are we seeing a pattern of punishment and persecution here? Or what is happening?
There is a pattern clearly established. But I personally still don't think it's been directed by the federal government. I think it's just overzealous IG wanting to please the executive, that is making this catalogue of error. There is already...
But then there were reports that the president gave a nod for the withdrawal of security detail from the Senate President.
I don't really think the president of this country will get involved in ordering the withdrawal of DSS operatives or police officers. Based on what I know about this country, the way it operates, I think is usually taken by the head of those agencies for whatever reasons, which may be politically motivated or not. I don't think so. I am not too sure. But the fact of the matter is the way and manner we carry out investigation, worries people. Maybe, I don't know whether many people did take note of the fact that at a point, the American ambassador did actually meet with Saraki, because some people are beginning to say, look, hang on a minute, is this really political witch hunt? It might not be necessarily by the president or by the leadership of APC, but the way those entrusted with investigation, vested with that responsibility, are going about it, it's creating serious concerns for so many people. If Saraki or Biodu Showumi or a governor or anybody or Mr. Vice President is suspected to have committed infractions, they have a right to investigate. Even they can investigate the president of the country. But what we should not do when it comes to serious criminal matter is to embark on media trial of alleged suspects before arraigning them in court. The moment you do that, you are trying to force the public to take a position for or against. In criminal matters where 33 people died, we should not be politicizing that, no matter the grievances between the IG and the Senate President. I believe that they are all important arms of government. They can always resolve their differences. People should remember Nigeria will have to survive for all of us to live in it. I, as a Nigerian, frequently traveling, I'm seriously concerned about the fact that outside the country, I can be embarrassed. The image of the country matters. We're already saying number 3 citizen is an armed robber. We're already facing so many problems when you travel abroad, suspicion around being a 419, a fraudster and all that. So now we're adding armed robbery to it. The moment you say the police did what they've done, to number 3 citizen, it is worrying. What about this fantastic work being done by our foreign embassies abroad? They've been trying to show up our image. The Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been trying their best. So much millions of dollars and pounds have been invested in trying to promote a good image. But now, overnight, we solved the whole thing without thinking about the possible repercussions of what media trial of those alleged criminals will mean, particularly when you are not dragging in the top leadership of the country. So it is worrying. I wouldn't want to look at it. Saraki is an APC member, just like Mr. President, but the IG is not an APC member. As far as I know, he has not said he's a card-carrying member, so therefore he should have done his job in a more professional way. And I think a lot of the flag should go to the police PPRO, Moshood Jimoh, because the IG might not necessarily direct him. He's supposed to be a professional. He should know how to handle this situation. They should have taken legal opinion to say, look, if we do this, will this be right? Will this not be prejudicial? Will this not, create problems? How do we manage this situation? They should have had a team, a media team, sit down with the lawyers and all that and agree on what can you present to the public and what you can't, what is in the national interest and what is not in the national interest. In this case, I think the police has been very, very reckless, with the way they have handled this very case. I am seriously concerned as a Nigerian that if care is not taken, we are already creating lacuna. We are creating gaps for suspects, to escape, conviction, because the balance of the balance of proof, the burden of proof is not based on balance of probability. Is based on proof beyond reasonable doubt. Once there is a doubt in criminal cases, there will be no conviction. And that is why the police have been losing so many cases. That
brings me to my next question, because Nigerians are waiting for the police to prove beyond the reasonable doubt these allegations and roping in of the Senate President. Do you see that as being possible?
So far, with what has been made available to the public, it's only based on balance of probability, not beyond reasonable doubt. To actually sustain the charge against, the allegation against Saraki, they need to produce the Amora. Michael Adiku, who those guys alleged, the ringleaders, alleged is their chief Amora, needs to be produced. He needs to tie Saraki to it. either is the one collecting the guns from Saraki or not. We have not had that testimony from anybody saying Saraki is the one giving us guns or we are taking it from Saraki's house. We've not had that from anybody. So Saraki himself has to be personally tied to it. That is my anger with this issue, that look, when you don't even have any evidence tying Saraki directly to it. What you simply have, is a statement, or some people making statement that we're getting the instrument from Michael Adiku and Saraki is their godfather. Being a godfather is not a crime. Even you can be a political godfather, you must be tied to a crime committed. Even if you are a godfather in the criminal world, you must be tied to a particular crime before you can be convicted. Nobody can convict you because of allegations that you're a godfather. So we need to go back and look at exactly what are we really doing with the Nigerian police force. I honestly believe that we need a thorough reform of the Nigerian police force. We need a police force totally immune, from body languages of political leaders in Nigeria. We need a police force that will just discharge its duty, no matter who source is God, no matter how highly placed the person is, but in a very professional way, devoid of media trial, devoid of smearing people's name. If at the end of the day of all this, they were unable to convict Saraki or unable to arraign him because somebody, an attorney general, whether the federal attorney general, in this case, Kwara State Attorney General, that's the scene of the crime, still needs to evaluate, the alleged crimes, the allegations. If they come with the view that you cannot arraign Saraki, what have you done to the country? You have already damaged the names of the country. When you say your number 3 leader, it's an armed robbery suspect. So I felt they should have waited till the Attorney General, either Federal Attorney General or Attorney General of Kwara State, takes a viewpoint to charge before the police can begin to explain what they have to Nigerians. If you don't wait for that, you now make all these allegations, and now the Attorney General needs to look at it carefully based on the fact that they need to establish direct link between suspects and the allegation. What then happens? If they are unable to charge some of those suspects, including Saraki, what then happens? We would have successfully, created problems for ourselves needlessly. So I think the police needs to learn from this. Traditionally, I've always been very supportive of the police, but this is just a total pot of mess, in my view.
All right, political analyst Biodun Shomi, thank you so much for your time on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And that's it on today's edition of Standpoint. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can watch a repeat of this edition tomorrow by 7 a.m. I'm Veronica Danik Boy. Enjoy your weekend.